He thought turning off read receipts would keep him safe. But he forgot to hide his shared calendar. One event was titled Dinner with Her. I RSVPed attending. My name's Brooke. I'm a nurse at a hospital in Fort Worth, Texas. I've been with my husband, Sean, since college. We met when I was 20 and thought I had everything figured out. He was calm, collected, the kind of guy who made you feel safe even when everything else was chaotic. We moved in together a year after meeting. Married 3 years after that. Sean works in IT. Quiet guy. Smart. A little boring sometimes, but he was mine. We had a routine. Monday night tacos. Grocery shopping on Sunday mornings. Vacations to the same beach town in Florida every summer. It wasn't exciting, but it felt like something solid. A few months ago, things started to shift. At first, I thought I was imagining it. He'd stay late at work more often. Say he was slammed with a new project. I believed him. I even packed him little Tupperware dinners and told him not to forget to eat. But it didn't stop there. He became more blank. He'd answer me with one-word replies. Fine. Yeah. Later. I'd ask how his day was, and he'd just grunt. No warmth. No smiles. No touches unless I reached for him first. And even then, it was half-hearted. The sex died down, too. From once a week to once a month. Then barely that. I asked him once, softly, if he was okay. He said he was just stressed. I let it go. I didn't want to seem needy. Then one night I noticed something. He had turned off read receipts on his messages. Now, I know that doesn't sound like much, but we always had them on. For years. I'd see read at 8:52 p.m. and know he saw my message even if he didn't answer right away. It was small, but it meant something to me. So I asked him why. He said, just didn't feel like having them on anymore. That's it. No explanation. No discussion. I let it slide. But I didn't forget. Weeks passed. Then one Saturday, I opened our shared Google Calendar. We both used it to stay on the same page. I'd put in my shifts. He'd put in work dinners or appointments. We've had it for years. I was scrolling through it while planning my week, and then I saw it. Dinner with Her Red Heart, Thursday, 7 p.m. It stopped me cold. My first thought was, no. This has to be something else. Maybe it's with his sister or some coworker. Maybe it's a joke. But then I looked closer. The location was a nice restaurant downtown we'd been to for our anniversary once. He'd already marked himself as busy. And I remembered something else. He told me he'd be working late that night. And he forgot something. He forgot I could see the calendar. He forgot I could RSVP too. So I did. I clicked attending. No message. No explanation. Just that. I stared at the screen for a long time. My stomach was tight. My hands were shaking. I didn't confront him that day. Or the next. I wanted to be sure. So I started watching. Not in a crazy way. Just quietly. Noticing. Not reacting. I started checking his calendar every day. He didn't add anything suspicious after that, but I checked his credit card statements too. He'd used it at the same restaurant the week before, too, around the same time of day. He said he was working late that night. I made a mental note. I kept looking. I found a Lyft ride on his history that ended near a small apartment complex about 15 minutes from downtown. At the exact time he said he was stuck on a conference call. Now I had questions. But I wasn't going to ask them. Not yet. I made a plan instead. I cleared my Thursday evening, told my charge nurse I had a family matter and couldn't work late. Put on a black dress I hadn't worn in over a year. One that hugged my waist just right. Did my hair. Put on makeup. Not too much. Just enough to make an impact. Then I drove downtown. I parked across the street from the restaurant and waited in my car, engine off. It was 6:52 p.m. 7 minutes later, Sean walked in. And he wasn't alone. She was tall, blonde, probably in her early 30s. He was laughing, smiling, touching her lower back as they walked inside. I hadn't seen that smile in months. I waited 2 more minutes. Then I got out and walked in after them. I spotted them immediately. Table for 2 near the back. Candle between them. They hadn't seen me yet. I walked right up, heels clicking on the tile, heart pounding in my ears. Sean looked up, and for a split second, he looked confused. Then terrified. "Hey," I said. I kept my voice calm, steady. "Saw the invite. Thanks for putting it on the calendar." The girl, her, turned pale. She looked at Sean, then back at me. Sean stood up fast. "Brooke, what are you doing here?" "I RSVPed," I said. I turned to her. "Hi, I'm Brooke. His wife." She gasped. Literally gasped. Like some dramatic scene from a soap opera. She grabbed her purse and stood up. "You're married," she said, loud enough that a few heads turned. Sean looked like he wanted the floor to open up and swallow him. I didn't stay long, just long enough to make sure everyone in the restaurant had seen what happened. Then I left. I sat in my car for 10 minutes afterward, hands on the steering wheel, breathing hard. But I wasn't done. That was just the beginning. I didn't go home that night. I drove around for a while, windows down, trying to feel something other than the rage boiling under my skin. I ended up at a cheap motel off the freeway. Paid in cash. Used a fake name. I needed space, and I didn't want him knowing where I was. He called, over and over. Left messages. Texted things like, "Please come home," and "It's not what it looked like." I didn't answer. The next morning, I checked our home security cameras from my phone. He came home around 11 p.m. the night before, alone. Pacing, standing in the living room, hands on his head, like he was the one who got hurt. I watched him sleep on the couch. He didn't go to our bedroom. Maybe he knew better. I let him stew for 2 days. Then I made my move. I showed up at the house Sunday afternoon. Calm. Quiet. Like nothing happened. He jumped when I opened the door. His eyes were bloodshot, like he hadn't slept. "Brooke, please, just let me explain." I raised a hand. "No. You're gonna sit, and you're gonna listen." He shut his mouth and sat on the edge of the couch. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I pulled out my phone and opened a file I'd been building. Screenshots of his calendar events, Lyft rides, restaurant receipts, credit card charges, and a picture of him with her outside the apartment complex from a week ago. I had driven there, waited, snapped the shot when he kissed her goodbye. I dropped the phone on the coffee table. He looked at it. Eyes wide, mouth hanging open. "I know everything, Sean. I've known for weeks. I wanted to see how far you'd take it. Brooke, I never meant to hurt you. I messed up. I was confused. We weren't connecting, and I cut him off. You turned off your read receipts because you thought I wouldn't see the signs. But you forgot about the calendar. You invited me to your betrayal." He dropped his face into his hands. "I don't know what I was thinking." "You weren't," I said. "And now you're going to find out what happens when I do." The next week, I emptied our joint savings account into a private account he didn't know about. Texas is a community property state, so I had to be smart. I talked to a divorce lawyer. She was sharp and angry on my behalf. I liked her right away. Then I talked to his boss. That was the twist he never saw coming. He worked for a small tech firm. Kinda startup-y, kinda corporate. He'd been bragging for years about how close he was with the founder, Dan. Always at happy hours, weekend retreats, that kind of thing. So I emailed Dan. Short and direct. "Hi Dan, I'm Brooke, Sean's wife. I wanted to make you aware that Sean has been using work travel and work hours to conduct an affair with someone he's met through your company. I have receipts, travel logs, photos, and calendar events to prove it. If this is not a company concern, I understand. But if you need more information, I'm happy to send it along." I sent it at 8:03 a.m. At 8:47, he replied, "Brooke, thank you. Please forward me everything you have. This is, unfortunately, not the first issue we've had with Sean misusing travel. That told me everything I needed to know. I sent the full package in a zip file. 2 days later, Sean was put on administrative leave. 3 days after that, he was let go. He came home that night furious. Not at himself. At me. You told my boss? Are you serious, Brooke? You just ruined my career. I stood in the doorway of the bedroom, arms crossed. You ruined your life. I just turned on the lights. I'll lose my stock options. My reputation. Do you have any idea what that does to me? I do, I said. And I hope it keeps you up at night. He didn't sleep in the bedroom after that. Things at the house got cold. We still lived together, but it felt like a war zone. He stayed on the couch. I stayed out late. He tried to talk sometimes, but I shut it down. The divorce papers were coming, and he knew it. But I wasn't done yet. There was one more move I had to make. Because the other woman? She wasn't just some fling. She worked in the same industry. And her name was on one of the same contracts I found in his briefcase. They'd started working together months ago. And she had a boyfriend. I found him. His name was Kyle. I found him through some light stalking. The other woman, her name was Maddie, had a semi-public Instagram. She posted a picture 2 months ago of her and a guy hiking in Colorado. His username was tagged. I followed the trail, found his LinkedIn, and boom, Kyle. Lived in Arlington, worked as a regional sales manager for a construction supply company. I sat on that information for 2 days. I needed to be sure I wasn't about to blow up the wrong person's life. Then I called him. It was early evening. I used a calm voice, nothing emotional. Hi Kyle, my name's Brooke. I'm Sean's wife. I think we need to talk about Maddie. There was silence. Then he said, What? I'm not calling to cause problems. I just thought you deserved to know what's been going on. At first, he didn't believe me. So I offered to meet in person. Public place. Somewhere neutral. We picked a diner halfway between us. Kyle showed up looking stiff, nervous, but polite. I had a folder with me. Printouts of calendar events, the photo I took of Sean and Maddie, and a screenshot from her Instagram story that I'd screen recorded. It showed her in the same restaurant as Sean the night of dinner with her heart. You could see Sean's hand in the shot. Kyle stared at it for a long time. Didn't say anything. Then he leaned back, rubbed his jaw, and muttered, That King snake. Which one? I asked. He laughed bitterly. Both. Turns out, Kyle had been planning to propose to Maddie later that year. Had already bought the ring. We sat for an hour, trading stories. The lies. The cover-ups. All the little things we'd brushed off until they added up to something too ugly to ignore. Before we left, I asked him, You thinking what I'm thinking? He looked at me, eyes colder now. Yeah, let's wreck M. That's how the second wave of revenge started. Kyle was careful. Quiet like me. He didn't want drama, just truth. He started by forwarding Maddie's emails, work-related and otherwise, to her boss. See, she wasn't supposed to be fraternizing with a client. Sean's company had hired hers for a development project. There were policies against this kind of thing. Kyle knew who to talk to. Within a week, Maddie was put on unpaid leave. Word got out. Her team started distancing themselves. She stopped posting on social media completely. Sean didn't know I'd teamed up with her boyfriend. Not yet. I waited until a Sunday afternoon. Sean was on the couch, staring at the TV. He looked like a shadow of the guy I married. Same face, but nothing behind the eyes. I stood in the doorway with a coffee in my hand and said, You ever meet a guy named Kyle? He frowned. No. Why? I shrugged. Maddie's boyfriend. Well, ex-boyfriend now. He sat up. What? He knows. About everything. We've been talking. He went pale. Jesus, Brooke, what the hell is wrong with you? Nothing, I said. But maybe something's wrong with you, thinking you could lie to 2 people for this long and never get burned. He stood up, pacing now. You told him? Are you serious? You don't get how much damage you're doing. I sipped my coffee. No, Sean. You don't get how much damage you already did. I'm just making sure it lands in your lap instead of mine. That night, I watched him pack a duffel bag and leave. He said he was going to his brother's place. I didn't care. The house felt cleaner the second the door shut. But the story wasn't over. Because 2 days later, something happened I didn't expect. Kyle called me again. His voice was quiet. Serious. Hey, just wanted to give you a heads up. Maddie's pregnant. I felt my heart drop. Pregnant? I sat down on the edge of my bed, the phone still to my ear. Are you sure? I asked Kyle. He sighed. She told me today. Said she found out last week. She swears it's mine, but he paused. We haven't, in over a month. So it had to be Sean's. That twisted something in me. I wasn't sure if it was rage, grief, or both. A baby? After all the lies, the sneaking around, the smugness of thinking he had it all under control, now this? I thought you should know, Kyle said. I don't think she's going to tell Sean anytime soon. Probably hoping she can still fix things with me. She's been texting nonstop. Thanks, I said quietly. I'll handle it. That night, I didn't sleep. I thought about how long I'd ignored the signs, how I brushed off my gut feelings, how I convinced myself Sean just needed time or space or understanding. All the while, he was building a whole other life behind my back. And now there was a baby in the mix. I had to act fast. The next morning, I met with my divorce attorney again. I told her everything. The affair, the calendar, the possible child. She nodded like she'd heard it all before. You need to get the papers served before any paternity stuff hits the courts. Otherwise, things get messy, she said. So we filed. Expedited. And I made sure it landed in his hands at the worst possible moment. He was at a coffee shop with his brother, someone I always liked. A decent guy who didn't deserve to be lied to either. The process server walked in, asked for Sean by name, and dropped the envelope on the table. His brother watched the whole thing. I heard later that he asked Sean, "What the hell did you do?" Perfect. Sean showed up at the house that night. I was already packing the last of my things. I wasn't staying there. The house was going up for sale, community property split down the middle. I didn't want a thing from him, but what I was owed. He stood in the doorway like he couldn't believe it. You're really doing this? You bet I am. His voice cracked. I lost everything, Brooke. I looked him in the eye. No, Sean. You threw everything away. I just made sure you didn't get to walk away clean. He looked at the floor. She says she's pregnant. Yeah, I said. Kyle told me. He flinched. You've ruined my life. I walked past him with a box in my arms. No. You did that all by yourself. I just RSVPed. 6 months later, the house was sold. The divorce finalized. I moved into a smaller place near the hospital. Quiet, clean, just mine. I heard through mutual friends that Sean was job hopping. Word got around fast in his industry. No one wanted to touch him. Maddie had the baby, but it wasn't his. Kyle wasn't the father either. Turns out, she had a third guy in the mix. Sean didn't end up with her. He ended up alone. One night, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. It said, "I'm sorry. I miss you." I stared at it for a long second. Then I blocked the number. I'd wasted enough time on a man who thought turning off read receipts would keep him safe. He forgot who was watching. And I don't miss a thing.